Today on Locked On Rockies. Well, the Rockies played an ugly game to start things off against the Cardinals, spoiling a little bit of the fun of the final week of Charlie Blackmon's last week in Colorado. However, plenty of games left, and there were things to be encouraged by.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 25th day of September in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind, like so many of you did when it came to Charlie Blackmon yesterday. We're going to read a couple of those comments later on in the show, but we are also going to talk about the game last night. That's ugly baseball. That's a bad loss. I mean, that's a bad way to lose. That's a bad way to lose, especially when you were fighting back. You had the momentum, especially with Charlie Blackmon. You simply can't afford to make those mistakes. You cannot do what the Rockies did to lose that ball game there. We'll talk about that coming up and lots more, all on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we dive into all the fun today, this episode's brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rival city. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball, and get the Booking.com app today. You cannot get a comebacker ground ball that goes to your pitcher, gets the runner on third frozen, and then nobody gets out. That should have been a double play. That should have been so much more than what it was. That is basically the best way to describe that game as a whole. That game was there was so much more. There was so much more that the Rockies could have and should have done in that game. But instead, it all comes unglued. It comes apart late. And you know what? It happens. It happens sometimes. And Angel wasn't his best self yesterday and got a little roughed up. And, you know, Feltner. I want to start with Feltner, actually. Nope. I want to wait on Feltner. I'm sorry, because I was scrolling through my stuff here, and I got a little bit more. I got something else I wanted to talk about. McGreevy has had a good start to the season, but you start making him uncomfortable. You start making things happen, and then things cool off. The biggest issue and the biggest frustration I have as well with this is a guy comes in and gets 5 strikeouts, and there's only 1 walk. This is a young guy. This is a guy that's on the road, and I know that he held the Rangers hitless or whatever, scoreless through 7, and he had good 3 innings against the Pirates, but there's just something about it's not just him, it's the Rockies as a whole. You just can't keep getting blown away and dominated by some of these pitchers when it comes to the strikeouts, even if you haven't seen him. And these are veteran guys that were getting at bats against him as well. It's not like there were a couple of guys. Obviously, the lineup skewed mostly young yesterday, but Ryan McMahon, plain and simple, like, Ryan McMahon has to be so much better. He has to be so much more consistent. He has gotten to fly under the radar a little bit, I think, in terms of criticism. It's appalling to see the way he strikes out, the way that he has been at the dish. I mean, whatever adjustment, whatever plagues him through his halves of the season, why he can't put together the complete season is beyond me. You cannot be batting Ryan McMahon in the 4 spot in your order, and he goes down with 3 strikeouts in that game. That's plain and simply unacceptable. Your 4-hole batter cannot be doing that. And in reality, I don't think Ryan McMahon's earned batting in the 4 spot. The Rockies have put him there all season or around there all season. And yes, he is someone that has power potential and can do that. He hasn't shown it. Ryan McMahon needs to drastically improve on the full season, on the consistency. I mean, he is the picture of what we're talking about when it comes to consistency and consistency issues with the Colorado Rockies. He's batting 235, 296, 357 in his last 30 games. In that time, he struck out 35 times. He's got 10 strikeouts in his last 7 games while batting under 200. These are problems. Ryan McMahon has struck out at least twice in his last 3 games. It cannot be the standard for Ryan McMahon anymore. Yes, he's going to cut down on strikeouts, but he needs to fix something. And it needs to become off of the approach. He needs to take that step into, there is a huge leadership hole leaving this team, a massive one. And it's going to take multiple Rockies to fill the void that Charlie Blackmon is going to leave. But it's time for Ryan McMahon to he were an all-star this year. You're trying to stake your claim as a top-level third baseman, and yet when we're looking at these, when we're looking at the splits, when we're looking at how the season has gone on, and we're looking at the cool-off here in the second part of the season and beyond, really, it's a problem. He's batting 227 in the month of September. That's following up in August where he batted 181. He's got 55 of his strikeouts in the last 2 months. His strikeout numbers, when you compare them to outside, they're on par with some of the other months. I shouldn't go too far there. They're still in line. But it's frustrating, and I'm glad he got to the 20. But it's just like that. Ryan McMahon's struggles just kind of feeds into, like, that's part of why you don't you're not handling the teams like the Cardinals. That's part of why the Rockies are where they're at. That's part of why the Rockies aren't cashing in runs in critical situations, is because they have had to turn to a guy in the middle of the order that's struggling. And Ryan McMahon still has plenty. I mean, he's only 29. He's going to be 30. I mean, he's still going to have some prime time to give here. But these are concerning trends, and these are concerning things of consistency problems with Ryan McMahon. But this season is starting to shape out more and more like his career has. He's got a career batting average of 243, a career OBP of 324, a career OPS of 747. These numbers are slightly down, but maybe this is just this might just be Rymac. This might just be where Rymac, the ceiling of Rymac. It's not as high as we think it can be, and it's not as high as it. I mean, I guess that it really isn't as high as it can be, because he's played all-star caliber baseball. But it's Ryan McMahon going down and having a frustrating day. It's the defense, and late in the ball game, a mental blunder that costs you runs, or it costs you a run that ties the ball game, that shifts the momentum. Instead of slamming the door, getting a huge double play, getting out of the situation, that happens. And then it's followed up on offense. First and third, nobody out. Weak dribblers to get double plays, to get knocked out of your rally. The Rockies have never overcame those things this year. The Rockies have never figured out how to avoid those things this year. The Rockies haven't been clutch this year. They've been in some moments, in certain instances, sure, but not every time, not when they need to be, and certainly not from the players that we have to look to, that we want to look to as clutch. Can you honestly say that Ryan McMahon is a clutch ball player? I don't think you can. I don't think there's very many clutch ball players, or at least this season, on the Rockies outside of Ezequiel Tovar. I mean, he's truly when I see Ezequiel Tovar come up to the dish, he's really the only one I'm fully confident in. Brenton Doyle is up there as well, but I'm a little worried about I'm just a little worried about Brenton Doyle's, just where he's just being gassed at this point. But that's all right. I mean, the season's almost over. I think not having Doyle play against LA was not a problem at all. Especially, I mean, why not get some rest? He can finish out the season. He's still getting some time. He's still playing. It's not like he had to go on the IL. The point is, we've seen that loss in the first game against the Cardinals. How many times have we seen that loss this year, last year? That game kind of summarizes so much of the frustrating parts of the Rockies. And in reality, I'm not even going to harp too much on the young bullpen having a little bit of a struggle there, which it did. 4 earned runs for Angel, an earned run for Victor Vodnik. Both of them had walks in there, giving up 4 hits in an inning and 2/3 between the two of them. It's not good, but it's great. Those are growing. That's a growing pains, learning the moments, a pro moment for those guys. But for these other guys, I expect more from Ryan McMahon. I expect the Rockies defense to understand how to play that rundown. But on the flip side to those guys, I do expect them to be able to stop the bleeding, to stop the dink dunk hits, to stop the wave of momentum the Cardinals built in the 8th. That's the expectation. It's not necessarily the reality. And it's how do the Rockies create the expectation of winning? Because right now, the expectation of the Rockies isn't to win. And that's a big problem. All right, it's still Charlie Blackmon week. There was still a lot to love about what happened with not only the Chuck being celebrated yesterday, but also Chuck's performance on the field. So we got the harping out of the way. Let's highlight the fact that Charlie Blackmon had a pretty darn good day as well, and read a couple of your comments about Charlie Blackmon as well. Coming up in segment number 2, today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Booking.com. This episode of Locked On Rockies is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. You want to go and check out. Listen, it's going to get cold soon, and I know fall is a prime time, but maybe you want to go check out some postseason baseball. Maybe you want to take a little fall trip here and maybe go warm up a little bit before you hunker down for the cold. Well, why not check out all the advantages that Booking.com has to offer for you? They got vacation rentals, resorts, bed and breakfasts, and so much more, so you can find the perfect stay even in your baseball rivals' cities during the postseason. Good news for the Rockies when it comes to visiting cities for our rivals. San Diego, pretty nice. LA, pretty nice. Arizona, pretty nice. San Francisco, pretty nice. All places you can go and enjoy with Booking.com. You can see all of the options for yourself, personalize your search options, and making sure that you're finding the right fit for you and your family. Get the right stay with Booking.com no matter where you are in the U.S. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rival city. Booking.com is going to help you get there. Booking.com, booking.yeah. We're also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. They got you covered for everything when it comes to baseball postseason. Hey, if you think you're feeling hot and you got someone that you're going to go and believe is going to win the World Series, well, they got the postseason futures going on for you available at FanDuel. They also got props. They got live in-game stuff. They got all sorts of options for you when it comes to the world of sportsbooks. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. In fact, and NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the stats, view live play-by-plays, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. So all the information that you need about placing your bets is right there, right in front of you, so you know exactly the type of bet you're going to make, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com, FanDuel.com. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you all sorts of great Rockies content. Like the video, subscribe on the YouTube page if you want to help the show grow. Really, really, really would appreciate that. For your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB and go check out Locked On A's as well, as they are breaking down the final week of baseball in Oakland there and getting you ready for the playoffs. And if you need to catch your Rockies play-by-play action here for the rest of the season, SiriusXM and the SiriusXM app has got you covered. So we got to talk about Charlie Blackmon still. Of course, he had a monster day yesterday, wanting to contribute to this team. 2 hits, an RBI, including another triple, his 5th triple of the year to put the Rockies ahead there in this ball game, a desperately needed triple that the team needed. It was awesome. And I think it was so cool to see you saw the level of respect for Charlie Blackmon yesterday. A packed press room. Nolan Arenado shows up. The entire team shows up. Coaches, players. It goes to show you how important Charlie Blackmon is to this team, to its core, to the people that turn the lights on and run the stuff behind the scenes and make everything's happen in the clubhouse, to the people on the field, the broadcasters, the GMs, the presidents, and all that stuff. Charlie Blackmon embodies Rockies baseball. There is no better ambassador for Rockies baseball outside of the two Hall of Famers than Charlie Blackmon. That guy, and to hear that he wants to be involved with the team and to just see, I mean, it's not, you don't take it lightly when the entire team shows up. Not a not a single person missed the Charlie Blackmon press conference from that roster. Because Charlie takes the time. Charlie took the time to be a leader. Charlie showed showed leadership to these guys, was so influential to so many of these young guys. You can see the leadership hole that Charlie Blackmon is going to leave. And who is going to fill it? There was mention of Tovar. There's some stuff on broadcast. The broadcast even brought this up too. It's kind of got me thinking about it. It's so important to have a Charlie Blackmon on your team. It's so important to have a guy that believes so much in the process, so much about putting in the work, so much about doing things the right way, while also enjoying yourself, while also, I think, reflecting on the fact that you're a Major League Baseball player. Charlie did that. Charlie brings a level of confidence and calm, I think, to a lot of these players. He's just, I mean, every big situation he's been in, he seems calm, he seems cool, and he seems collected because he prepares for everything. All you've heard throughout this is the preparation, lifting after the games. No one gets in his way. Why was the press conference at 2 p.m. at a random time yesterday? It's because he had a schedule. He has a routine that he sticks to, and it helps gets him there. And it's helped keep him healthy. It's helped keep him impactful all the way through. We mentioned how this year it hasn't been the best in terms of his numbers, but he's fought his way back to being a player that positively contributes to this team. You know you've done something right when your peers respond like that. Every single player showing up. Nolan Arenado taking the time to come out and make sure that he sees this. That demonstrates the significance and the reputation of Charlie Blackmon. That's why it's so important for Dick Monfort to have names that resonate with people. Why did we get Chris Bryant? Because eventually Dick Monfort and company saw that this moment was going to happen. Charlie Blackmon was eventually going to retire, and you were going to have to fill a huge hole. But in reality, the retirement of Charlie Blackmon and eventually the retirement of Kyle Freeland are going to signal a complete new era of Rockies baseball. There is no replacing Charlie Blackmon. You cannot expect Chris Bryant to fill the role of Charlie Blackmon as a Rockies legend, as a Rockies leader. He's got insight, he's got experience, all that stuff, and all the other behind-the-scenes stuff. But he didn't play 14 years in the same uniform. And in those 14 years, he didn't play basically every season, barely getting hurt and not doing the best that he can. I was thinking after the number retirement conversation we had yesterday, I was thinking on it. And if you're not going to retire Charlie Blackmon's number, it is time to build a Rockies Hall of Fame and start recognizing more of your history. Because if you're going to set the standard of Hall of Fame, which Evan Lang posted up or posted multiple times, a good reminder for folks, Todd Helton's number was retired for a long time before he was a Hall of Famer. Yes, we all knew and thought and believed in him being a Hall of Famer, but that is important context to put there. Like, it just goes to show you, like, there are just certain numbers with the Rockies that I'm okay with retiring. And I'll get to a reader comment that kind of follows along on this. It's, are you recognizing just baseball greatness and that baseball greatness that has to be in that really hard level to reach, that standard that is set, that baseball is set, that makes it so difficult to be the best in the best when you're retiring a number? Or are you honoring your team's history, your team's greatness? Does it have to be great in the grand scale? Does it have to be so great of Hall of Fame 50 WAR player like Gonzalez there in Arizona? And if it is, okay. If that is the standard, if Hall of Fame is the standard for the Rockies retiring numbers, you have to do more to celebrate the great players that have been in your organization. You have enough history now and enough good names that deserve to be celebrated, that this is the moment. You are closing the chapter on another significant part of Rockies history, and that chapter will come completely to, or that book will come completely to the close when Kyle Freeland retires. The first team to go back-to-back in the playoffs. The first that core that a lot of people loved. That era is almost completely gone now. How are we going to remember it? How should these players be recognized? Because they deserve it. Because I'll just say this. If the standard doesn't have to be Hall of Fame, baseball Hall of Fame, Cooperstown Hall of Fame to get your number retired, retire 19 and retire 5. I have no problem at all with both of those numbers being retired, because in reality, it's a weird thing, but if I see 19 on another player, if I see 5 on another player for the Rockies, that's not who I think of. And I think the Rockies players that wore those numbers deserve it. And Charlie Blackmon a little bit more so than Cargo, because of the fact that he was a Rockies lifer. Charlie Blackmon chose to stay within the Rockies organization his entire career. You can't say that for everybody. And I know Cargo probably actually would have been, I think Cargo probably would have been happy to finish here and everything. He always seems to love that. But I'm okay if Cargo gets his number retired. I'm okay if Charlie Blackmon gets his number retired. I'm okay. I mean, 2 is an interesting number to retire. I mean, Tulo, I just think maybe got hurt a little bit too much, but I'm fine with that. I just want these guys to be recognized and recognized as they should for the greatness that they gave to the Rockies. There is history of good and great players for the Rockies, and it's a shame that we might not be able to get a chance to recognize these folks. The Rockies are so long overdue for a Hall of Fame or a thing that they can add to celebrate their history. Let's read a couple of comments here about Charlie Blackmon here. Jim Cusera says, "Yep, retire it." And he says, "Hats off to Charlie Blackmon, good player and good man. Sad that he had to deal with owners who have not seen value in building up a good team around good players." It's been tough, and I mean, you know, that's why people have left Colorado. Lux Ace, diehard Charlie Blackmon fan. We know that, and let's get a little backstory here. "Since the first day I started liking baseball when I was younger, I've always liked Charlie the best. He has been the biggest role model, and I've had, and it is sad to see Charlie go. On my birthday, on July 25th, we were playing the Astros, and I was at the game, and Charlie Blackmon hit his first career walk-off home run, and it was just so special seeing my favorite player do that on my birthday. Charlie will always be my GOAT. We'll always remember him, and I'm going on Sunday to see his final game. And P.S. Charlie should be our next manager over Bud Black. All jokes aside, super sad about Charlie, but it's good to move on for the prospects we have good coming up." Lux, that's the unfortunate but good way to think about it. It's hard to see your favorite player go, and that highlights everything, man. I tweeted about this too. Charlie Blackmon was so many Rockies fans' favorite player, especially in the post-Helton era, the post-Arenado era as well. I mean, he was so easy to root for. And like I said, such a great embodiment of Mr. Rocky. Let's see. Ash L says, "Honestly, if retiring Charlie's number is going to lower the standard, I say lower it. The Rocks have 2 numbers retired in just over 30 years as an organization, and those have been guys that are cultural touchstones for the team. Charlie is definitely one of those. Charlie played his entire decade-plus career for the Rocks, and think of all the things he spent time earlier in the video praising him for: staying with the team, dedication to the game, and the young guys he helped through his career and set standards for. And his numbers may not be up to the standards of other team number retirements he listed, but at the time of his retirement, he's going to be second in pretty much every offensive category for the Rockies, behind only Todd Helton, whose number is retired and was before he was voted into the Hall of Fame. At this point in the team's life/history, Chuck is a Rocks icon that deserves that recognition. Hey, couldn't really say it much better myself. I think that is totally valid. I think when your guy, I think the person that is second place and only behind one of the greatest players to ever play in all of your team statistical categories, that's a pretty darn good case to retire the number. It's just is the number being retired more for the team and just the team performance, or is it bigger than that and it has to encompass other things? I think it should be more focused on teams. I think when you have a retired number and when people go to the ballpark and see it, they say, hey, I remember that number. I remember that player. Or if they're learning about the game, they say, who was that? And then they look it up and then they get to learn. And then they learn about the influence of these players. So thank you so much for some great comments there from Locked On Rockies fans out there. Remember, you can always be part of the show, firing off your Rockies hot takes by commenting on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. All right, let's take a quick break, wrap things up, and look ahead to the game tonight. Also want to mention a little bit about Ryan Feltner and his nice little month here and kind of navigating it real quick. But we'll do all that coming up after the break. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about our friends that make the show possible, and that includes Game Time. Game Time's got you covered when you need tickets for the latest and greatest. Is it sports? Is it comedy? Is it a concert? Doesn't matter. Game Time has got you covered. And they even got a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching for through thousands of tickets. You can see all-in pricing. Just click up at the top, toggle that in, and you are going to see all of the costs up front, no hidden fees, exactly what you're going to pay, and you're also going to get a view of your seat as well, so you know exactly where you're going to sit. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day. Free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Rockies looking to bounce back against the Cardinals, get that elusive 61st win. They only have 3 losses to give if they to avoid or hit that 100-loss mark. If they're trying to avoid that, got to win the series and got to be ready to go against LA to finish the season. But before we wrap up, I just wanted to mention the fact that Ryan Feltner's gotten himself into a nice little bounce back groove here, and still plenty of improvement, plenty of stuff along the horizon, stuff to be frustrated about, I think, for him, especially as you look through it. When you look through his game logs and when you look through the months, it's like, wow, oh, wow, but when you're Ryan Feltner, and you start out, and when you look at the way the season went through basically June, and then in July, really great stuff. Stumbles a little bit in August, but now back in September, he has gotten himself to the best position he has been at any point in this season. Right now, after his ahead of this final start, 186 batting average against, a whip of .99. He's struck out 20 batters in this month here. And it's the strikeouts might not be as high, but the good news is he's been able to navigate situations and prevent the earned runs. Only 6 earned runs this month compared to 11 in August. He had 8 in July. Again, July was a solid month for him, but go back to June, 20 earned runs there, 17 earned runs in May, 16 earned runs in April. You've seen Feltner mature throughout this year. You've seen Feltner get better. And even through some issues, there's still problems, right? There's still plenty of things there are still things he has to work through, but that's growth. That's the type of, at least we're excited to see that as the season has gone on, Ryan Feltner has gotten better, getting more comfortable with Coors Field. And not to mention that run production has always been a tough thing for Rocky starters. But when I see nice, good dips in importance categories and things like, going down, I'm encouraged by that, like earned runs and batting average against and whip and such like that. So I'm really impressed to see that Feltner is starting to grow a little bit more and handle it. I mean, because Milwaukee, Detroit, Arizona, St. Louis, all pretty darn good teams that he's had to go up against here in the last bit of stretches. And he's hopefully, they said that it was just cramps and everything they took him out of the game for yesterday. So still plenty more to go, but for Feltner, but encouraging to see the fact that he has been able to bounce back a couple of times this season. And compared to how things have started for him, he's in a better spot at this point of the year versus how things started, meaning adjustments have been made, comfort's been grown, and he's been getting better, a little bit better and better there as well. All right, folks, that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Rockies taking on the Cardinals again tonight at 6:40 p.m. at Coors Field. And the Rockies still trying to hit that 61st win. I know there's a lot of people out there waiting with bated breath for the Rockies to get that 61st win. We'll see if the Rockies can get the job done today, and we'll be breaking it all down right here on Locked On Rockies. Until next time, folks, this is Paul Holden saying so long from Locked On Rockies, but in the meantime, go check out Locked On MLB or Locked On A's for your second listen of the day. And if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs have got you covered. We'll catch you on a flippity flip.